topic, and let's talk about Rocky Horror, because apparently the people's out here saying it's problematic. Apparently, I should say Jay-Z, Gen Z is trying to cancel Rocky Horror. First of all, you can keep your damn hands off this movie. This movie is a classic. In fact, I might watch it tonight. It is one of my favorites. Touch me, touch me, touch me, touch me. I wanna feel dirty. Anyway, so let's get to no. I almost canceled the damn stream. Let me pay attention and stop singing Susan Sarandon's part. Anyway, so it says Halloween season, aka Gay Christmas, it damn show is upon us. A time for some of our favorite annual traditions, like bringing out the spooky decorations, putting together a sexy costume, and apparently debating whether or not the Rocky Horror Picture Show is problematic. Another year, another debate rages over the 1975 musical horror comedy's status as a timeless cult classic. It is an all-singing, all-dancing celebration of sexuality and queerness, or is it an artifact of a bygone era that perpetuates harmful stereotypes? Well, I guess because next year marks the 50th anniversary of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, I guess we'll entertain this. Sidebar, I did see a post where they was talking about that gay faces, they did a study and gay faces an actual thing. I'm like, duh, we needed a study for that. Like I've always been saying for years, like some people I'll be looking at it like, they got gay face. Like this something you could tell is how you doing. So they said, you might think we've already exhausted every single angle of this discussion, but it's been a hot topic on the internet all week. So in the words of the denizens of the Frankenstein place, let's do the time warp again. So for a quick refresher, Rocky Horror is a story of newly engaged couple Brad and Janet, played by Barry Bostwick and Susan Sarandon, both hot by the way, who get lost in a storm and are forced to seek shelter in a mysterious castle owned by mad scientist Dr. Frankenfurter, played by Tim Curry. Chaos, sexcapades, aliens, and some killer musical numbers ensue. Now, directed by Jim Sharman and based on Richard O'Brien, who also played Riff Raff, by the way, hit stage musical of the same name, is a film the film didn't create such a stir in the U.S., so it definitely did not do well in 1975, but it has sustained a cult following. They have midnight screenings of it across the country. They have a dedicated fan base. Also, my friend Michael T does a annual, they do like a Rocky Horror show or whatever, and he always plays Dr. Frankenfurter. So that was another thing that I just want to point that out as well. So, shout out to Michael T. So they said, not for nothing, a large portion of that cult following has always been queer fans who feel seen by Rocky Horror's embrace of sexual fluidity and androgyny. Especially in the 70s, the Frankenstein place was the rare space where all were welcome, from the bi-curious Brad to Janet and Frankenfurter, a self-identified sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania. It's probably the latter part that most of the macabre musical stand out as a product of a different time. Outdated terminology aside, a number of folks have lamented the way culture has idolized Frankenfurter, a character who behaves very, very badly, to put it mildly, and perpetuates negative stereotypes of trans people and queer folks of large. Child, y'all get on my nerves already. At large, and is played by Tim Curry, who is a legend, but nevertheless a cis male. Well, y'all do know that we're going to have people weren't even aware of transsexuals or whatever. Well, as far as like having trans actors in a movie that came out 50 damn years ago. Keke Palmer put out a recent video, before I get to the rest of this, about how she's sick and tired of Gen Z trying to erase history in regards of, or trying to erase millennials or Gen X, or even boomers. Like, you do know that a time existed before y'all were born. And you can feel a way about certain things that have your certain discourses, but try to erase and talk about certain things as problematic. Yeah, maybe the terminologies back in the day were problematic. First of all, the word tranny was not seen as problematic until recently. So throughout history, it has been used. I don't think some people were using it in a negative connotation, but looking back on it, we always know when we know better, we do better. And when you say certain terms, those terms that were okay back in the day aren't used anymore because now they are seen as problematic. So they also said, can't we acknowledge a classic film's flaws without chiding people and making them feel bad for enjoying it? Not to mention one that's meant an awful lot to generations of queer people, including myself. Because when I was growing up, we didn't have a lot of people that we could look at as queer representation. One of the people that I looked up as, that I was like, I see myself in that person, whether or not you agree with some of the things that they were doing. And yes, Dr. Frankenfurter is problematic in regards of like the decisions and the things that he was doing. He's a villain of sorts, or an anti-hero, depending on how you look at it. But you see yourself in these people, and you didn't see something like a Dr. Frankenfurter and what this musical entailed back then. So when you are someone who has, in regards of queer representation, slim pickings, we gravitate towards what we can. And yeah, while people are flawed and people can be problematic in certain things, we cherry pick the things that we see and we resonate. We hold on to that while disregarding the other stuff. You know, I know it might be hard for some of you Gen Zers who live in y'all phones and stuff, but we have the ability to compartmentalize a lot of certain things. We can multitask. We're not just a one note type of situation, like how some of y'all are one vote people when it comes to your politics. We can look at the bigger picture at the end of the day. And when y'all get older, you will learn that. So a Twitter user by the name of Chickadee, are you related to Honey Boo Boo? was getting at when they posted the following a few days ago and said, is Rocky Horror problematic or trans misogynistic? Yes, it was made in 1975. You can consume and enjoy and love art that you understand is harmful. Because, and then also said, well, child, they also go by Lesbo Batman, aka the Dyke Knight. That is funny. So I also said Rocky Horror also offered a refuge for many, me included. Going to Midnight Shadows cast showings before I even knew I was queer gave me a visual vocabulary for what I was feeling. Its magic feels like at home in a lot of ways. So, like they said, like multiple things can be true at once. You can reference that people can, you know, that film, even though it's problematic, allows you a way and a safe space to explore your queerness, which if you look at the whole overall idea behind Rocky Horror, it's a safe space where these people were allowed to explore their sexuality, Brad included, who was supposed to be getting married to Susan Sarandon's Janet. He was getting into his situation, exploring his sexuality. And that's what I looked at it as overall. It's a safe space and I get to just be authentically me without judgment. So they also said that a few days later, the original post now has millions of views, thousands of quote tweets, and hundreds of replies, though it was designed to both ask and answer the question, is rock problematic and trans misogynistic? And I think that it can be both. I think it can be problematic and trans misogynistic. However, now that we know better and we do better and we've evolved and now trans people have more of a say and more visual, you know, are more visible, I should say, in the limelight, some of the things that we got wrong or cisgendered people who wrote these scripts and came up with these ideas and the right terminologies and truly understanding transness, we can do better by evolving. It's the same thing like when you look back at old films featuring Black folks. When you know better, you do better. And you evolve. The things that you look back at old Black movies is problematic. We're going to talk about Step and Fetch It and all that other stuff. And, you know, the blackface and all that, how we progress from that. Especially, and now when it comes to LGBTQIA plus stories, the same thing. So here's the thing, and like I said, it's like when Rocky Horror Picture Show. Another thing is it helps you find, you know, community. Another thing I want to give y'all an example of, and I'm gonna wrap this up. Sleepaway Camp. I went to go see for the first time in a theater because I was basically in a fetus when Sleepaway Camp came out. So I wasn't able to go to the movies and see that film. I've never experienced it in a theater. I've seen it on streaming. I actually own the film. So when it finally when it showed over the summer at the IFC in the West Village, I actually went. And yeah, there was all different types of people in there, even trans people, queer people in general. And I love the fact that this one girl got up who looked to me like she might have been a Gen Zer. I don't know. She looked young enough that she fit the profile. And she made a comment, because I think I also talked about this in my video that I did on the film, which was on my old damn Instagram that I no longer have. I'm still mad about that. But anyway, let's move beyond. And when I talked about that, basically what she said was that this movie resonated with her. So while you could find things in there that's problematic, it's like when you're a trans person, the things that you take from those type of films, it's what you resonate with. So while you may look at it and think like, oh, it's problematic at the film's core or on the surface, I feel like that people need to sometimes take a breath. Don't be so quick to just jump online because I want to click on a like and some attention, and really do a deep dive into the thing. Is like, what is it that you're taking from this film that you resonate with, that help you deal with your overall consensus of exploring your sexuality and understanding the true root of your queerness. And I think like movies and music, but mostly movies, helps us with that. So I want to see what other comments that people were making on this. So one person said, I go see it every month. It's formed an amazing community, and the legacy of it has become acceptance and the weird, then shunning. Of course, it's problematic, but it's almost 50 years old. I don't even think it's harmful, to be quite honest, because where's the harm? The film's pansexual, non-binary, trans femme antagonist shows the straights that their sexuality and gender are fluid too. Sure, Frank kills Meatloaf, but in real life, being a Republican killed Meatloaf. Now that's funny. Another person said, 1975, I transitioned the year Rocky Horror Show came out. Rocky Horror Show was out there at the edge, but to even acknowledge trans existence was so exceptional that we could celebrate it. And that's true. Like 50 years ago, that was totally taboo that we're celebrating transness in a film. They said the theater show and later cinema nights were for many T women the first time they dared to, X-dress in public. I don't know what X-dress in public means, but whatever. Okay. Now, here's what some people said in regards of, they said the others have more of a problem with Chickadee's word choices. What about Rocky Horror is actually harmful, and what do we even mean when we call something problematic anyway? Saying, I see a trend of people labeling older LGBTQIA plus representation as problematic. I think a better term would be dated. There's a knee-jerk reaction when discussing vintage queer media that doesn't amplify how significant it was for the things that pioneered the way. Absolutely, because if it wasn't for those programs that came out before, you wouldn't be able to get where we are today in regards of how we evolved since when you say, the terminologies, some of the things in the films were dated. Another movie I think that, people have a problem with that explores transness of sorts, and I love both of these movies, Psycho and Dress to Kill. Some people would consider those in the same way, but I feel like some of that I would categorize that in the dated category. Another person said it is very harmful to delude me into thinking that being trans would mean I own a castle with an indoor pool someday. Chill, get off my line with that. Another one said, can we stop? I can't imagine going to a movie as joyful and full of life as Rocky Horror with a live experience that is unlike anything else in the world, and spending half of the time seething at how problematic it is and wondering how much joy I'm allowed to experience. Absolutely. And then they also said, even Tim Curry added his 2 cents. Or did he? So now a popular Twitter account under the name of the 78-year-old Rocky Horror star chimed in on the hot topic, blowing the conversation up even further. But there's one very important detail that everyone seems to be missing here. Despite the fact that their handle is @NotTheTimCurry, and their bio makes it clear they are a parody page lovingly dedicated to the actor, a number of media outlets and notable people, from Ben Stiller to musician Amanda Palmer, appear to believe it's the real deal. Well, that always happens. That's kind of like when people think Pop Crave is Pooh Crave, but that's a parody page. But they said that even though it's not him, the fake Tim Curry does make a good point. So here's what he said. Tim Curry. Is the Rocky Horror problematic chat? Though through a 2024 lens, of course it is. But babies, being gay was illegal in England 6 years before Rocky Horror was first staged in 73. It was brave, bold, and brilliant for its time. Look beyond the end of your own nose, just briefly, please. And that, I think, is my overall assessment. Can y'all just like stop cutting off your nose and spite your face? Can you actually look beyond, what's here in front of your face? I feel like I'm doing John Cena. It's like, can you look beyond your face or whatever? So you can get what you need to get out of the situation and look deep within the situation and realize how historical this movie was and way before its time. It's like, yeah, being gay was illegal in England not that long before the movie came out. And don't even get me started on the issues that we had to deal with in the United States in regards of LGBTQIA plus representation celebration. And especially when we had Project 2025 coming in, you got a certain orange turd who wants to roll back a lot of the things that we worked hard to get in this country progressively. So you Gen Zers that's continually trying to erase things and call things problematic, I really feel like, y'all need to use the internet for other things besides bitching and actually take the time to Google schmoogle and look into your history of what it's like to be LGBTQIA in the country and how far we have come, even though we still moving at a snail's pace, how far we have come as a people in regards of queer art and queer representation on the big and small screen. So you could feel how you want to feel about it, and you have a right to, but we've come a long way in regards of Rocky Horror, and Rocky Horror has definitely paved the way for a lot of artists to create what it is that they've created in regards of queer representation. So I say all this because we needed a minute to break all that down, and that is like one of my favorite movies. So what did you think of this story? Whatever your thought, do you think that the film is dated, problematic, whatever you want to call it? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments down below.